I'm going to go over the buffer here, mostly because I want to reiterate that you do have to do two steps typically when you're doing a buffering. You have to do the buffer itself, then usually multi-part to single part after you do the buffering to get distinct polygons. You'll need to do the buffering here to add canopy. Here I have trees, the existing canopy, dark green here for tall and the light green for short. I'm going to add new canopy on each of these tree locations, and the easiest way is to basically digitize a bunch of points and buffer them and then clip out where they overlap with existing features to add new canopy rather than try and digitize blobs of new canopy. I could digitize, which would be more laborious, the boundaries or polygons and then clip those out, but I'm always looking for the quickest way to get things done. So here I'm going to look at buffering my new trees. So if I go to my geoprocessing and I do the buffer, I can type buffer here into the geoprocessing tool for a search, or I can click on the buffer because I've used it recently. And my input features will be new trees, some name for the output. I'm going to use linear distance, and my distance is going to be 13 meters. That's the distance we've specified in meters that a deciduous canopy can reach. And we're going to make sure that we have a dissolve here. So we'll dissolve for all the output features. Now if I go ahead and run this, it will quickly calculate my buffers and show them. Now we'll note that this is a multi-part feature. If I right click and open the attribute table, I can say I have multiple polygons, but I only have one entry here. Now it calculates the shape area summed across all of these because there's only one entry. So this is the area I need to note down when I do all my points and then buffer on all my points. That's the total added area, and I have a cost associated with that. So you have to basically calculate the cost on your gross area. You don't get credit for the areas that overlap. That means you got to be careful when you place your points. You don't place them too close and have too much overlapping with existing canopy because then it'll cost too much. So once I have this area, I want to go in the buffer. I want to go basically multi-part to single part. And so I'll take my input feature, which is this new trees buffer, and I'll call that new trees SP for single part and run it. And that will break each of these individual polygons that are in that multi-part feature into their own area into a single part. And so apparently it didn't load it here automatically. And so here's my new trees SP. Oh no, there it is. Yeah, it did load it automatically. I'll right click and open the attribute table. And now I can see that I have each of these with their individual records for each tree. I have to add a field, and that field will be the type, right? And that's the deciduous or conifer. And so I need to make that a text field. And then I also need to add another field, which will be the height. And we have that also as a text field, remember, short or tall. So I add those two fields, then I have to populate them. So I save it. And then I can go to the type here, and I can right click and calculate it and call that field its type. I'm going to insert a value, and the type is going to equal, in this case, DEC for deciduous, and run. And now they'll get a value of DEC, and I can also right click on the height and give it a value of tall. Now I think I might have written out deciduous entirely. I just want to make sure in the original data set, I just want to make sure then that I have these identified as those kinds. Now in the project, we tell you have to get net canopy, and see this canopy overlaps with the existing canopy. So I'll have to clip out, actually erase the part of these that overlap. And the easiest way to do that probably is to union these and then make sure you take the value for the unioned areas from the tall deciduous you added. I'll leave that as a problem to you. The other thing you'll have to do is knock out the new canopy where it overlaps with buildings. So you'll have to take your buildings data layer and erase out from the canopy these new overlaps. So those are multiple steps you'll have to do in creating your new layer. But the first step is the buffer. So I want to make sure you did the buffer and then multi-part to single part before you go on to the next steps.